Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is Biblical Insights. In our video today, we're going to talk about the fact that Christianity is different. Different from what? Different how? How is Christianity any different from any other religion? Well, it's different because Christianity is literally the only religion that seeks to solve the sin problem and offers a person a relationship with God. Now, that may sound odd to some people. They think, are you sure? I'm not sure. Why is Christianity the only? Don't all religions offer that same thing? In fact, don't all religions offer pretty much the same thing all across the board? Aren't they all, leading in the same direction? Well, no, they're not. They're not. And in fact, the more you study religion, world religions, the more you realize that religions go in many different directions, offering all sorts of different things. And when you look at them closely and compare them to Christianity, what you realize sooner or later is that there's something really quite unique about Christianity. And it is the fact that it is the only religion that seeks to solve the problem of sin in the world on a global scale, as well as on a personal scale, sin in your life, as well as sin around the world. And it offers an intimate relationship with God. And there isn't any other religion like that. So let's take a moment and think about that instead of just speaking in generalities that you may or may not believe are true. Let me give you some very specific examples. Okay, let's think in terms of Judaism in the Old Testament. Now, Christianity grew up out of Judaism. There's no question about that. But the old covenant system, the Mosaic system of relationship with God, didn't really involve any way for the problem of sin to ultimately be resolved. They had a system of sacrifices where they could offer sacrifices for sins that they committed. And what we learn when we study the Bible closely is that in a practical, day-to-day way, their sins were, quote, forgiven, if you want to think of it in those terms. But legally, they weren't. They were just set aside where God was looking forward to the sacrifice of Jesus, and he knew all of those sins that people had offered sacrifices for would eventually, at some point in the future, be forgiven. And so he just, in a practical way, said, yeah, okay, you're fine, no worry about it. And so they were forgiven, but not technically. And under the Old Covenant, there was no real avenue and no real focus for a very close relationship with God. Those things came in a new and different and more meaningful way with the establishment of the new covenant. The closest you can come to solving the sin problem and having a relationship with God outside of Christianity is Judaism. But even Judaism doesn't do for a person what Christianity does. Which is why God set aside the old covenant, the Mosaic covenant, and established the new covenant, which was rooted in the sacrifice of atonement for sin and the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. You see, that's why the old Mosaic covenant was set apart, because it wasn't getting the job done. It wasn't giving people what they needed, what God wanted them to have. So he replaced it with Christianity, and it's just a superior system. It's a better system. In fact, that's what the whole book of Hebrews is about in the New Testament. The idea behind the book of Hebrews is that everything about Christianity is better than or superior to the Mosaic covenant, Judaism. Christianity is just better. Now, people who are not Christians may not believe that, or may not even like, to hear someone say that, but that is what the teaching of the New Testament is. Now, let me say at this point, this video is not about religion bashing. I'm not here to say how terrible all other religions other than Christianity are. That's not the point. The point is that Christianity offers something that those other religions do not offer, and it's something very important and something very meaningful. Let's think about another religion. Let's consider Islam. In Islam, does that religion have anything akin to what Christianity has in relationship to solving the sin problem? Well, no, they don't. In Islam, the idea of sin and salvation is simply you need to make sure that you do more good things than you do bad things. And if the good things outweigh the bad things, then on the day of judgment, you will get into heaven. Okay? And that's the way a lot of people think. That's the way many people think Christianity works. Well, that's a mistake. Christianity doesn't work that way. There's no, how many good deeds versus how many bad deeds, in Christianity. There's nothing about that in Christianity, nothing whatsoever. But that is the basis for Islam. Now, some people might think, well, what's the problem with that? That's not too hard. I just have to make sure I don't do, too many bad things. The problem is people typically think of the bad things, as the really big, horrible, ugly, bad things, like murder and stealing and selling drugs and molesting children and having an affair with somebody else's spouse, being brutal, being physically violent, getting drunk and doing and saying ugly, disgusting things and hurting people and so forth and so on. And those are the bad things. And so if I don't do very many of those, or don't do them very often, and I make sure I do good things, then I'll be okay. So I'm going to keep a little record, in my head. Maybe I'll even get a little notebook and write it down, on a day-by-day basis, did 2 bad things today, so I need to make sure before the day is out that I do at least 3 good things. Well, that's, really? Can you actually even make that kind of a record and keep it accurate? Probably not. But the thing is, we have one definition of sin, and God has a very different definition of sin. For God, anytime you miss the mark being God-likeness, anytime you behave in a way that is not how God would behave or how Jesus would behave if he were here, then you have sinned. Okay? And it's not just those big sins, the ugly things that you probably can get arrested for, or that everybody in society looks down on and says, oh, that's horrible, you shouldn't do that. But all sorts of things, just being unkind, being impatient, being, anything that's less than God-likeness is sin. Well, there's no possible way, if you really understand what sin is, there's no possible way that you can do enough good things to outweigh all of the bad things that you do. It's not even possible. You see, and again, that's why God set aside I'm sorry, we had a malfunction there with our equipment, so let me pick up with where I was. God set aside the old Mosaic covenant because it was a law-keeping system, and people had to, obey the law, and it ended up being, have I done enough good things to outweigh the bad things? Have I broken any laws? But there was no way for that to ever be resolved. I mean, it's just continual worrying about sin and, how many bad things I've done, and can I stop doing all of these bad things, and so forth and so on. So, God knew that whole system wasn't working, and that's why he set it aside and replaced it with a new system based upon a single superior sacrifice, which was the sacrifice of Jesus so that the problem of sin could be dealt with once and for all. You see, and Judaism didn't have anything like that in the old Mosaic covenant, and so that's why God replaced it with the new covenant, and we've talked about that from Jeremiah 31. And the new covenant is different, and it offers you something the old covenant didn't. And this is true for Islam as well. Islam has no system to deal with the problem of sin other than, well, just make sure you do more good things than you do bad things, and then you'll be okay. But that's not possible. It's not possible. And Islam just doesn't offer you what Christianity offers you. What about Buddhism? There are a lot of Buddhists in the world. Well, whether it's Buddhism or Hinduism, and when you put those two together, there are billions and billions of people in the world who practice those religions. Any of the religions that have to do with reincarnation or the belief in reincarnation are rooted in the idea that you've got to get it right, and that you keep being reborn so that you have another chance to get it right. And the whole point of those religions is sooner or later, as you keep having another chance to live another life and do better, and live another life and do better, and live another life and another one 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 and another one, thousands of times, until you finally get it right, and then you get to escape the system of samsara. You get to escape that and realize nirvana, and you get absorbed into the universe, and you cease to be an individuated conscious self. You see, well, that's just very similar. You just have to keep living life over and over and over and over and over again, and there's no help. There's no help with sin. You have to do it yourself. And so that's really not terribly helpful, is it? It's really not. What about Taoism? What about the Chinese religion? Well, again, billions of people practice that around the world. And basically the focus there is harmony with nature. How do you get to live in harmony with nature? Well, you just have to meditate. You just have to spend time thinking about it and trying to keep your life in balance. Well, if you're a priest or something like that, you don't have a family, and you don't have a job, and you don't have all this other stuff going on, and you have time to go sit on the beach or sit in the woods and meditate, or whatever, and you don't have anything challenging you, and you don't have family problems, and then maybe if you have enough time, if you live long enough, you might be able to find some level of balance in your life. But again, there's no help. It's just up to you. You have to go do it all by yourself. And what if you can't? Well, then it's, what are the results of that? What about pagan religions? I used to live in Africa. I was a missionary. I lived in a small village in Nigeria, West Africa. The village was called Ukbum. It's not far outside of Abak, which is not far from Uyo, which is the capital of Akwa Ibom State. Okay, so if you're in Nigeria and you're seeing this video at some point, I used to live there for 2 years, and I've encountered some pagan people, and I know what pagan religions are about and how they work. Paganism doesn't offer you any help with much of anything, except you have to honor and acknowledge the spirits or the gods and offer some sacrifices to them, and if you don't annoy them, then they won't do anything bad to you, and if you honor them appropriately, then they might even protect you and keep other bad things from happening to you. But what about sin? What about any kind of help with sin? Well, some of them might say, well, the God will just forgive you if he likes you. If you honor him, then he'll just forgive you. But it's an ongoing problem, isn't it? It's an ongoing problem. It's never resolved. It's just more of the same. Every single day, it's more of the same. And one of the things I learned when I lived in Africa, uh, surrounded by people who had a background in African religions, animism, paganism, is that they live in fear. They live in constant fear, afraid of gods and spirits and demons because they might get them, they might hurt them, and they might inadvertently offend one of them, and then, boy, look out, because he's coming after you. Well, that's no way to live. That's no way to live. What about neo-paganism, this a new modern version of paganism? Well, that really doesn't offer much of anything either. So what is it about Christianity that's really different? What is it about Christianity that allows people to see that there's something different here? See, and that's what happened. Think about the ancient Roman Empire. They were pagans. They believed in many gods, and it was all very sophisticated in the context of the Roman Empire, but it was still just paganism. It was animism. That's all it was, right? And they had sacrifices to all kinds of different gods and all of that. And how is it that this little religion that started in Jerusalem, in the year 30, we think, on the day of Pentecost, which is in the month of June, how is it that that little Jewish religion spread outside of Palestine? And it started with 120 people, 120 people on the day of Pentecost. That's what they had. And then before long in Jerusalem, they had several thousand throughout Palestine, many, many thousands, and then finally it spread out into the Roman world. And basically, within a couple hundred years, Christianity had conquered the mighty Roman Empire. It had changed the Roman Empire. It had changed the world. And by the time Rome fell, Christianity was there, and it was very entrenched. And even when society in Europe was on the brink of complete collapse, Christianity was there. And in the Middle Ages, when the foundations of Western society were being laid, what was there? Christianity was there. It wasn't there all by itself. There were some other ideas and other things in there as well. But one of the most powerful foundational ideas that became what Western society and civilization was built on was Christianity. Okay, so why has Christianity for the last 2,000 years been something that people look at and go, wow, there's something there for me. This is real, and this is useful, this is valuable. There's something there. What was the thing that was there? What was that was there that they saw? What is it? Well, it's the idea that you're a sinful person, but your sins can be forgiven. And you can enjoy a relationship with God where your sins will continually be forgiven. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. And God will come to live in you and be a strength in you and help you develop new character traits and help you to change your life and help you to be a better person and a different person if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you want. Christianity provides all sorts of amazing benefits that people see and value. It gives you peace. It helps you become a better person. It helps you have hope by having hope for the future because of this relationship you have with God. It gives you purpose in life that transcend just, well, I'm going to be a teacher, or I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be. The purpose you get from Christianity, from a relationship with God, goes way beyond any of that sort of thing. So there's something real and tangible about Christianity that none of the other religions in the world can offer you. Not one of them. Not even Judaism, which is the closest thing to Christianity, but it doesn't even offer what Christianity offers. which is why so many Jews became Christians. Okay? And not Islam, even though it's what's called an Abrahamic religion, and a lot of Islam is very similar to what you find in the Old Testament scriptures, but it can't offer you what Christianity can offer. Neither can Buddhism or Hinduism, neither can Taoism, neither can paganism or neo-paganism, and that's why so many people have left those religions and embraced Christianity, because Christianity really does offer something that those other religions don't offer. So it's one of the things that you should think about. Well, those are my thoughts for today. I hope I haven't offended anybody. It wasn't my intention to offend anybody, but to simply to tell you the truth, tell you things that you need to know. So I would leave you with these thoughts. Read your Bible, pray, go to church, and may God bless.